Hi, thanks for being with me today. I hope you're keeping well. Today I thought we'd have a conversation together about doubt and how, as Christians, we navigate doubt in our faith. I mean, we've all experienced doubt, haven't we, at some time or another in our lives when it comes to the Christian faith. Maybe you're going through a period of doubt now, but lots and lots of different things can inspire doubt within us. Of course, perhaps things might happen to you in your life. You might suffer a period of ill health or mental stress, or you might go through a bereavement, or you might lose your job, or a relationship might break down, or whatever. And that will cause doubt about the reality of God and his activity in your life. The world may go through political turmoil, and the nature of events may cause you to doubt whether or not there is a God who is actually in control of events. Digital culture causes us to doubt as well, doesn't it? There's so many different opinions out there now on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and lots of different platforms that people can express alternative opinions. And these can lead us into faith doubt as well. So lots and lots of different things, that we're led to question, is the Christian faith real? Is God actually there? How do we navigate doubt as Christians? Well, the first thing to say is that if you are going through a period of doubt at the moment, you are not alone. Lots of people go through it or are going through it at the current time. So please recognise that it's not just something you're going through as a unique experience. And there's 4 things today that I just want to mention with you about doubt. And the first is, and I hope you take some hope from this if you're going through a period of doubt at the moment, but the first is that doubt is not the opposite of faith. It's actually a part of faith. Faith, biblically and as Christians, faith is not certainty. Faith does not mean, if you've got faith in God, it does not mean that you don't have any doubts. What faith is the trusting in the character and the promises of God, even in uncertainty. That's what faith is. It's trusting in the promises and the character of God, even in the face of uncertainty. In Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1, there's that kind of classic definition verse of faith where it says, faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. So faith, we have faith in what is not seen, not in what is seen. So therefore, it's not the opposite of doubt. Don't let anyone say that it is. And so therefore, doubt is not a sign of failing faith. If you are doubting at the moment, it doesn't mean that your faith is failing. What it often means is that your faith is maturing, because what you're doing is you're wrestling with the hard questions. You're wrestling with the realities of the world and trying to interpret the truth about God in the light of difficult reality. Now, that seems to me to be a maturing of faith, not a undermining of faith. And we see it, in Scripture all the time. We see it in the life of Sarah, who doubted God's promises for her. We see it in the life of Moses, who over and over again doubted God's promises for him. We see it in the life of David, and of course in the New Testament, doubting Thomas, who's become defined for us by his doubt. And even John the Baptist, who in Luke chapter 19 sent his disciples to go and see Jesus and asked the question, are you the one? He was doubting as well and wanted confirmation from Christ that he was the Messiah they'd been waiting for. Martin Luther, C.S. Lewis, Mother Teresa, all these great saints throughout history have written about their doubts as well, that as they have wrestled with the big questions of life and expressed that in the form of doubt. So if you are going through doubt at the moment, don't see it as your faith failing. It's not. It could well be, part of the process of your faith maturing. I'm sorry I'm out of breath. I'm walking up through these woods, and again, it is a lot hotter today than I thought it was when I was back home. And, I'm not 27 anymore, and sometimes these paths through the woods do take it out of me a little bit. There we are. Authentic faith, it seems to me, doesn't fear big questions. Sometimes we can be a part of a church community that almost tries to dissuade us from asking the tough questions. And if we do ask the tough questions, they kind of make it sound like, well, we haven't got enough faith. Doubt is a bad thing, or asking big questions of God is a bad thing. But I would say that is absolutely not the truth. You need to be asking the big questions of God. You need to be asking big questions about God. In Mark chapter 12, verse 30, Jesus said, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength." And part of what it means to love God with our minds is to be prepared to ask the big questions and to really dig deep. And that can sometimes look like or feel like doubt. And you know what? God isn't offended by you questioning him. God isn't offended by you saying to him, well, why do you allow suffering in the world if you're so good, and things like that. He's big enough. He can take your questions. It really doesn't matter. What it seems to me is that when we ask those big questions of God, we're actually pursuing intimacy with him. We're actually saying, okay, Lord, I want to get closer to you, but I really need to understand these issues. In Mark chapter 9:24, when that man brought his boy to Jesus to be healed, he said to Jesus, "I do believe. Help my unbelief." It sounds like a contradiction in terms, but it wasn't. And I think we can be like that as well, can't we, with God? I do believe. Help my unbelief. And of course, Jesus responded to that man and healed his son. And in the same way, if we're open and honest with God about our doubts, he will bring healing to us as well. So if you are questioning about God, as a way of, kind of maturing the faith, then inevitably it will mean holding on to some things at the end of the questioning and letting go of other things. And that brings us on to the second point, which is the question of deconstruction. There is a difference between cultural deconstruction and holy deconstruction. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, deconstruction seems to be a bit of a buzzword these days in the world of spirituality and faith. The idea of deconstruction is that we kind of dismantle all the faith claims in a kind of logical approach. And we strip away everything that is false, everything that is unhelpful, and we literally deconstruct the Christian faith, if you like. And what we are left with at the end is what we can believe, and we have discarded everything else. But I want to say that deconstruction is a good thing. But there is a difference between what I want to call cultural deconstruction and holy deconstruction. Now, cultural deconstruction is where we might tear the faith apart in reaction to spiritual trauma, perhaps, or the hypocrisy that we see in the church sometimes, or toxic theology that we've had to sit under. Do you see what I mean? If we've had a bad experience in life, or a bad experience of church, or a bad experience of the church community, then out of that kind of cultural experience, we might then deconstruct the Christian faith, probably out of anger, actually, and hurt and pain. But that is different from holy deconstruction. Holy deconstruction is where we come into the process of deconstructing the Christian faith from a positive perspective, and we say, okay, well, we want to strip away everything that's unhelpful so that what I'm left with at the end is a kind of more pure faith in Jesus Christ. In 1 Thessalonians chapter 5:21, Paul writes, "Test everything, hold fast to what is good. So he's kind of encouraging there holy deconstruction. Test everything, hold fast to what is good, come at the deconstruction from a positive perspective, not just as a kind of response of anger because of the trauma you might have suffered or the bad experience of other Christians that you might have you might have suffered. And of course, part of the problem is that many Christians, I would say increasingly in this day and age, base their faith on their experience of church culture. They base their faith on the teachings of sort of celebrity pastors. They base their faith on the incredible worship experience that they might get from a charismatic church, for example. They base their faith on the emotional highs that come with the church community where they are based. Well, of course, once those celebrity pastors fall, or once the worship pastor leaves and the worship is no good anymore, or once the emotions start to dry up, then faith becomes deconstructed and fails as well. If we want and that's when doubts set in. But if we want to bypass that, and if we want to bypass that kind of cultural deconstruction, then what we need to do is base our faith on a relationship with Jesus Christ. Paul says in 1 Corinthians chapter 3:11, no one can lay a foundation other than that which is laid, which is Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is the foundation for the Christian faith. Jesus has never failed you. That is the truth. Jesus has never failed you. Other people might have done, the church might have done, your pastor might have done, your family and friends might have done, which has left you hurt and angry and doubting the Christian faith. But the truth is that Jesus has never failed you. And Jesus says to you in Matthew chapter 11:28, come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. And that is the truth of the Christian faith. So when you come to doubt, when you're experiencing doubt, try to work out, is it a sort of cultural doubt that you are doubting because of what you've experienced in the church or through the church? Or is it a holy doubt where Jesus has actually let you down? And I would argue that Jesus has never let you down. Jesus went through a process of cultural deconstruction himself, of course. He was very critical of the Pharisees. And he was anxious not to abandon Judaism, but to restore it. And so as part of his kind of program of cultural deconstruction, Jesus cleansed the temple. In Matthew 23, he called out religious leaders for their hypocrisy. In Matthew chapter 5, he said, I've not come to destroy the law, but to fulfill it. So Jesus was kind of aware of, the need to deconstruct culturally, but retain his faith, as it were, in God the Father. So there was not a holy deconstruction, but there was a cultural deconstruction going on. I think if we are sure where our doubts come from and what is at the root of our doubts, then our faith can become more Christ-centered and less self-centered. You know, if I doubt fundamentally because I've been hurt by somebody at church or the pastor has said something to upset me, then that's kind of quite a self-centered, egotistical reason for doubting the Christian faith. We want to have a Christ-centered faith, don't we? Not an egotistical one. John 16 verse 13, Jesus says, when the Spirit of truth comes, he will guide you into all truth. So, that is the ultimate truth, that Jesus has never let you down, even though communities of faith can do. Having said all that, there are times in our lives when it seems that God is absolutely silent in the face of our suffering. And, that can also lead to doubt. So what do we do? How do we carry on staying faithful? and growing in faith when it seems that God is silent. Well, a couple of things I want to say about doubt in those circumstances. Firstly, to overcome doubt or to grow through doubt, we need to trust God when you can't feel him. Trust God when you can't feel him. In Psalm 13, verse 1, the writer says, "How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? In Isaiah 45:15, we read, "Truly, you are a God who hides himself." And then, of course, in Matthew 27:46, Jesus himself says, my God, why have you forsaken me?" So it's a real kind of common experience for those of us who have faith to experience the absence or the silence of God in our lives. And there was a wonderful writer called St. John of the Cross who wrote a book called The Dark Night of the Soul, and this idea that we can go for days, weeks, months, even years feeling that we are in utter spiritual darkness and we can't find God anywhere. He seems completely silent, completely absent. You might have experienced a dark night of your own soul. I know I have. When my first wife was diagnosed with cancer in her mid-20s, and then she subsequently died in her early 30s, and I was a single parent for a while, and going through all that process, was a real dark night of the soul for me for many, many years. So, I think perhaps we've all experienced something like that. But the absence of feeling God is not the same thing as the absence of God. God is not absent. It just may feel like he is absent. And we need to remember the difference between the two, and that your doubt is arising not because of the reality that God is not there. Your doubt is arising because you feel that God is not there. If you are going to base your faith on your feelings, how you feel in a difficult time, then of course doubts will arise. But if you hold on to the truth that that God is still with you and present with you by the Holy Spirit, then you will be able to navigate through the period of doubt. So if you are experiencing doubt, at the current time through the feeling of the absence of God, I would say, just don't stop praying. Don't stop reading the Bible. Crucially, don't stop going to church. Keep going. Keep going, because, God is there. And the time will come when you will get through this dark night. But you've just got to keep going. You've got to be resilient. There's no easy words I can say to you today. You just got to suck it up and get on with it, and stay faithful to God. And, he will bring you through this dark night at the appropriate time. In Hebrews chapter 11, verse 27, the writer was commenting on Moses, and he said, he persevered as one who sees him who is invisible. And that's basically what we just got to do. We've got to persevere as those who see God who is invisible. We just got to suck it up and get on with it. Keep praying, keep reading the scriptures, keep worshipping God, keep staying faithful, and eventually we will come out the other side. In Isaiah 40, verse 31, there's a beautiful promise from God that says, they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. And one day your faith, your strength will be renewed. Your spiritual strength will be renewed. You just got to keep on going, even in times when you don't feel God present with you. And then fourthly and finally, and aligned to that, if you're going through a period of doubt, you just got to anchor yourself in the person of Jesus Christ. You can never navigate doubt. You can never get through periods of doubt by adhering to a system of beliefs, by adhering to doctrines, by adhering to religious practices. What you've got to do is cling to the person of Jesus Christ. It is a relationship that will get you through periods of doubt, not a system of doctrines or ideas. Paul writes in Colossians 1:17, talking about Jesus, he is before all things, and in him all things hold together. Your faith holds together in him, and you've got to cling on to that relationship. You've got to cling on to that faith when you are struggling with doubt. And Jesus knows, of course, all about doubt. As I say in Matthew 27 on the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me? But he meets doubt with his understanding. In John chapter 20, of course, Thomas was expressing doubt after the resurrection. And then we read, though the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, peace be with you. Jesus met the disciples in their doubt and said, peace be with you. So when you doubt, when you're going through a period of doubt, I would say, strip your faith back, go through that inevitable process of deconstruction, cultural deconstruction that you need to do, where you feel, okay, well, church culture may have failed me, my system of theology might have failed me, my pastor might have failed me, or whatever it is, and strip it all back and come back to the person of Jesus Christ. And come back to the relationship that you are called to enjoy with Jesus. Don't try, when you are trying to navigate through a period of doubt, don't try to rebuild your faith on your emotions. Don't try to rebuild it on your faith tradition or on clever theological answers. Focus on rebuilding your faith on the relationship that you have with the person of Jesus Christ and his presence in your life. Because Jesus is not a theory. Jesus is not a tradition. Jesus is not a clever answer. Jesus is a person. And, a relationship with him is where doubt is overcome. In Hebrews chapter 6, verse 19, we read, we have this hope as an anchor for the soul, firm and secure. So make sure that whatever is going on in your life, however much you are doubting, hold on to the hope that you have in your soul, which is firm and secure. So, if you're doubting today, if you're going through a period of doubt, or if you're going through a time of deconstruction, or if you're just feeling dry in the faith, you're not alone. You're not a failure. Your faith is not failing at all. All is not hopeless. You are going through a process where your faith can potentially mature to a large degree. And you will be able to deepen your relationship with God when you come out the other side of this dark night of the soul. So bring your doubt to God. Bring all your questions to God. Bring all your feelings of hurt and emptiness, and anchor your heart again in a relationship with Jesus Christ. He's the one who is holding you through good times and bad. Doubt is not a bad thing. It's all about growing in the faith through asking the right questions at the right time. I hope that's helpful. Drop any comments below. That's always good to hear from you. And let me know your experience of doubt and perhaps how you've managed to overcome doubt in the past and strengthen in the faith through that. Thanks for giving me your time today. Always really, really appreciate it. And I look forward to being with you again really soon. Take care. Bye.